Nearly 35 years ago, in September 22nd, 1989, Hurricane Hugo devastated the Carolinas. It came through. At that time, it was one of the most damaging hurricanes at that time. It's still probably considered one of the third most worst hurricanes at that time. It was nearly $20 billion of damage. There were trees down, roofs torn apart, and the lights were out, and schools and businesses were down for weeks on end, all due to the devastating damage that Hurricane Hugo did. And I remember I was there as a young person. You probably thinking, Pastor, you don't even look like you were born then. Yeah, I was. It's back in 1989, this storm devastated us all. And there I was as a little kid, and I remember looking out the window that night at this storm. Many people were terrified, believably so, because we're talking about a hurricane that was now inland over 100 miles. Hurricane Hugo devastated everything, and the lights were out, and it was pitch black outside. It was raining. I saw the trees bending and waving, and trees were coming down all around, and people were terrified, but I wasn't. Surprisingly, in the midst of this storm, I wish I could say that it was because of me, but I wasn't scared because I knew that my daddy was near. That even in the midst of this storm, I wasn't scared at all. Even looking at all that was going around me, I wasn't scared because my daddy was near. And in our text today, we'll find that in the midst of our storms, we all need to know this very one thing, is that our daddy, Jesus, is near. And in spite of whatever storms of life that you're going through, you need to understand that Jesus is near. What storms are you going through? Everybody's storm may look different. And I'm sure most of you all know that I'm not talking about this natural storm. I'm talking about these financial storms that we can all go through. Some of us right now maybe are on the brink of bankruptcy, or you're coming out of bankruptcy, or you're hanging on by a thread to try to avoid bankruptcy. And maybe there's a financial storm that you're going through. Maybe you're that single mother or that single parent that's trying their best to give your kids all that they want and desire, knowing that there's some things that you need, and yet you've placed them on hold because you're trying your best to survive this financial storm. Or maybe it's a health storm that you're going through, a chronic illness, and somehow you just don't feel like yourself, and you just can't do the things that you used to, and you're feeling a turmoil, and the doctors don't have answers for you, and you're wondering, when is this health storm, this crisis that you're going through, going to end? Or perhaps it's a relationship storm. Marriages and family and friends are broken and tattered because of all that we're trying to go through. The pandemic has taken us left, it's taken us right, and the sicknesses, and there's things that's going on, and mental health crises, and all of these begin to weigh on our families and our relationships and how we handle and maneuver. How are you handling the storms of your family? Or perhaps it's a personal identity storm. I don't know about you, I know I can relate to each one of these storms that I've talked about. And so many of us are still struggling with self-identity and what is my purpose in life? And you're trying to figure it all out by yourself, so it seems. And you're going through this storm, and you're trying to figure out, how do I get through this storm? Our passage today is telling us all is that we need to look to God to get through the storms of life. That's why I'll say it again. Look to God in order to get through the storms of life that you face.